The fallout over the arrest of a Milwaukee County judge continues this week, and there's a new Republican challenger for Governor Tony Evers' 2026 re-election campaign. Emilee, Fannon, and J.R. Ross have the details in tonight's Capital Connection.
We begin this week with President Donald Trump's border czar criticizing Governor Tony Evers over the guidance that he issued to state workers last month that essentially just gave them some guidance of how to interact with federal agents, immigration officers, if they show up at their workplace. Now, we don't know of any instances of this happening, but there's been heightened criticism over Evers issuing this memo last month. So what we heard from the border czar, Tom Homan, basically saying is, hey, just wait and see. We could see further action from governors to the state level, local level, and of course this comes at a time where we just saw a Milwaukee County judge arrested last week.
Now let's kind of differentiate here, okay? One, if Tony Evers is standing up at the courthouse or the state capitol door saying you can't come in, or if he's hoarding people in his office, that's one thing. But providing guides to employees of you should call an attorney, people I talk to are skeptical there'd be an arrest over something like that, like Tony Evers. By the way, can you imagine the circus you would have arresting a sitting governor who's up for election in 2026? That's besides the point. Politically, though, Republicans want to portray Evers as out of touch. His numbers have been pretty solid his entire time in office, around 50% for job approval. They don't really move a whole lot. They want to portray him as somebody who's not as nice or as non-threatening as you think he is. This is one way they hope to try and return us out of the mainstream on an issue that is really important to people.
All right, and now Governor Evers has long defended this guidance, too. Worth noting that he's like, I'm not breaking any laws. I'm not suggesting state workers break any laws. All I'm encouraging them is if this were to happen, if this scenario does play out, call an attorney. So where this goes, we'll see what happens next week, or with this threat essentially from Tom Homan. All right, let's move on to, of course, the other big story that's been happening in Milwaukee is, of course, the arrest of Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan. That happened last week, and it was this week that the state Supreme Court issued a unanimous decision temporarily suspending her judicial powers. Now, she'll still be getting her annual salary, but this just really sets up all eyes looking ahead to her first court appearance on May 15th.
Yeah, and people are trying to game out how this could play out in the courts. So, one, you think, okay, do you want to reach a plea deal? Well, she's bringing in a heavy hitter legal team with people like Paul Clement, Solicitor General, and George Bush. You don't bring those folks in to make a plea deal. Two, the Trump administration wants to make an example of her. You don't escort a judge out of a courthouse, hands cuffed behind her back, to reach a plea deal. You want to send a message to the judges if you don't get in our way when it comes to this issue. Okay, so take the plea deal off the table for now. She goes to trial. What's that look like? You start gaming out, really, it's about time. Federal courts take a long time with stuff like this. Can she get it to either A, beat it, or B, drag it out long enough that she could get 3.5 years? Why is that important? Because there'll be a different president, barring the amendment, the Constitution being changed for a third term for a president. There'll be a new president in 3.5 years. Would that president keep this case going? Issue a pardon? We shall see. But for Dugan, she's going to have a legal defense fund announced any day now, we expect. There will be resources there. Now, it's no fun to be suspended at home, not able to do your job. But you can see a scenario where she fights this and goes on for years and years, fades from public view, may eventually goes away.
And also this weekend, we had the first Republican announce a bid for governor. We're talking about Washington County Executive Josh Showman, who formally, of course, filed nomination papers with the state earlier this week. And he is, of course, announcing this 18 months prior to, of course, the November 2026 election. But he also has to get in the game pretty early to get that name recognition, right, JR?
Look, we don't know that Josh is a wealthy person. He's been county executive since 2020. First county executive in Washington County history. Spent 6 years before that, I believe, as the county administrator before they went to a county executive system. He is known in Republican circles, but that circle is pretty small. He has to raise his name ID and raise money because we've seen a pattern for Republicans of people writing a big check. Eric Hovde in 2024, $20 million. Tim Michels for governor in 2022, also somewhere in that neck of the woods for his financial commitment. If you don't have that kind of money, you got to raise it. Josh isn't the profile yet to raise that kind of money. He's got to go out there and work and earn it. That means Lincoln Day dinners. That means doing the rubber chicken circuit, appearing anywhere you can to build your name ID and get those checks flowing in.
All right, that will do it for this week. Thanks so much for joining us.